tried to go to law school. I couldn't pass the LSAT and get admitted to a university. I went and took a job with the Internal Revenue Service doing automated collections for a couple years. And when I finally got to the point where I hate my job, I hate going to work, I had to have a conversation with myself. Okay, do I go or do I call in sick and take my chances that they'll fire me? And eventually, I finally said to myself, Max, there's worse things than being a carny, and this is one of them. So I went back home and joined up with the family business, and was very happy to be involved in that alongside my dad and my brothers for 11 years before he passed on. But even somebody like me, this wasn't who I started out to be. I had part of the freedom came when I had a health issue, and the doctor said, you need to go home and see a doctor and get physically right, or you're not going to be around much longer. Part of it was another great blessing that I can only see as a blessing now, because at the time it was not a blessing. Was when my cousin Jason basically made it where I could no longer make money on the Midway. He basically forced me out of the business. And as a result, I'm like, okay, I'm not making any money on the Midway. There's nothing I can do that will allow me to make money on this particular Midway. And so what do? Do I just continue to show up and be unhappy and miserable, or do I decide, okay, this ain't working? There's something that I've been thinking about doing for a long time. I've done it kind of halfway, kind of part-time as the equipment broker. And so why not see if I can't make that a profession? And it turned out that, well, I didn't have the first clue what I was up against. I mean, there's so much stuff I didn't know that, but it was a great thing. It was my thing. It was something I started. It was something that I was able to build. Every day was a learning experience. Sometimes the learning experiences were not fun learning experiences, but every day was an education, an experience. And the Midway Marketplace, even though I don't make a lot of money from it, I'm well respected, I'm liked. There are people in the amusement industry who depend on me to help them. And so I continue to keep that site going. I continue to help people sell surplus equipment because I kind of feel like they're part of who I am now, because they were the bridge from accepting that I was no longer a carny to becoming the blind blogger, this guy who's an inspirational, motivational author, speaker, coach. All of that stuff a lot of it was caused by having this Midway Marketplace thing that has now become kind of like the second thing I do.
Wow, that's beautiful. So we can see that you've developed that not from something that was easy, but actually something that was actually, a very difficult situation. And look what was born. So it's not that everything, comes on a smooth path, is it?
No, and I think that's one of the great disservices that other coaches and other online personalities do the world is we don't show people the downsides, the negatives. We don't show them the bruised knees, the checks that don't cash. We don't show them that sort of stuff because we feel like if we did, they wouldn't respect us. They wouldn't want to do business with us. They wouldn't want to have us as their coach. But I personally think one of the best things I have going for me is this brutal, if sometimes even detrimental authenticity or honesty about what I'm going through. Because to me, everything that happens to me is an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity for me to learn. It's an opportunity for me to teach those people who follow me online. So I put it all out there. And a lot of it, wasn't pretty or easy. And there were a few times when people asked me, why is somebody who can't see running a business where it's obvious that you have to handle a lot of images and a lot of things and work on stuff and figure out how to make it visually appealing? And that there hasn't been many of those in the last 5 or 6 years, but in the first few years there were a few people who thought I was out of my mind, and there were quite a few more who thought my business model was crazy because I was actually wanting people to pay me to help them sell their stuff. So, but I do think that there's so many people online who make it look like it's easy, like they never had a sleepless night. Like they never had a thing go wrong in their online lives. And so when people that follow those people have those hiccups, those bumps in the road, they're like, well, that other guy isn't having these problems. Why am I having them? There must be something wrong with me that I can't make this a success when he or she can.
I can so resonate with that, Max. And I think, to share the whole story of ourselves and to share our vulnerabilities and to share, the hardships. And I think that's what makes us connect with others. And that's why people resonate so well with you, Max. Talking about going online, I'm actually putting my whole business online this year, and it's pretty scary because it's a big place out there. And I just think it's so exciting for me when you said you've made such wonderful connections, and I know you have because I've even spoken to a lady who, she feels like she's your best friend and she's never met you, and that's online.
Let's talk about Lorraine regularly because that's a great story, and it exemplifies what I was talking about meeting people online. I did not set out to meet Lorraine. Both of us were leaving comments on a blogger named Adrian Smith's website. We're both trying to figure this whole thing out at different parts of our process. But she was so surprised to see a blind guy not only blogging but commenting and replying to comments in social media. So she wanted to meet me, and she replied to a couple of my comments, and then she noticed that anytime I included an image on my blog, that it messed up my page to where people couldn't read the text. So she reached out to me and said, Max, I'd like to help you fix this problem. So we exchanged emails, and we sorted out the picture problem, and that was a big help because while the visual appearance of the site doesn't bother me any, I know it bothers y'all people who can see them. So a few months after that, I was challenged by another friend to write my first book, and I had written it, but I hadn't gotten to the point of publishing it. And so, since I had built this relationship with Lorraine, I contacted her about the editing, and we worked through the editing and the formatting and getting a cover and releasing it on Amazon and CreateSpace. And for people who are watching this now, by now you will have seen Louise's excellent interview with Lorraine, where she shares her story about being raped at an early age, being into drug abuse and prostitution, and then recovering to be a successful blogger, editor. I think now she's even podcasting too, as far as that goes. And so she's edited all three of my books, including my latest one, The Blind Blogger's New York City Adventures: How You Can Make Your Dreams Come True. And I've been introducing her to people to where she can go out and share her story and hopefully inspire and motivate other people. So yeah, we're best friends. When we get on Skype or Messenger, we talk for hours. And she recently posted something on a thread about dating. She said, I don't know what the deal is with y'all people and Max, but if he lived where I live, I would certainly date him.
That's brilliant.
So this is a great example. She lives in Thunder Bay, Ontario, which is like way up in the north part of the country. So we're talking probably 2,000 miles away from Houston, and probably no time in the near future where I'm going to be anywhere near her or vice versa. But we have become great friends. We've worked together. We've helped each other out, and while my books may have been published without her, they wouldn't have been published as quickly or as easily, and they certainly wouldn't be anywhere near as good. So, Lorraine regularly of wordingwell.com, I have to make sure I mention that because I'm all about gratitude. Yeah. I'm all about gratitude. And to me, if you appreciate what somebody does and you get an opportunity to mention their name and tell people about them and you don't, to me, that's just... I don't know what the word is for that, but it's just wrong. It's just it's not Christian. It's not friendly. It's not family. It's just wrong to. And recently, when I gave my second public talk, my first talk here in Houston, in the question and answer session, somebody asked me a question about writing and editing, and I even mentioned her in my talk in the question and answer period because it was pertinent to the question and answer, and I just wouldn't feel right not mentioning her. That's just the way I'm wired, I guess. And It may be weird or different to most people, but hopefully more people will start behaving that way, especially online, because all of us are at different places in our journey. We're all either learning or teaching or both, and the more we admit it when somebody helps us, again, the more likely other people are to succeed, because if people see Max publishing a book, okay, and Max doesn't tell them about Lorraine, they're going to think this blind guy published a book all by himself. And, my last one has 60 pictures in it, and the pictures all came out great. They're all, centered on the pages and everything. So people would look at my work and they would go, okay, the blind guy did this. How in the heck do I have a chance of doing this for myself? But if I let people see that, yes, I had help, I had a lot of help, for people that I met online that I've never met in person, and hopefully when they get to that point where they're stuck, they're not going to think it's their fault.
Yeah, so that brings us on to asking for that help and accepting it.
Yeah, that's a very difficult one. As a blind person and somebody who knew he was going to lose his vision, most of my young life, people were telling me, Max, never be afraid to ask for help. There's no shame in it. Nobody will think less of you for doing so. However, that works for the blind, but for most sighted people, and a lot of people in our world today have this belief that if they ask for help, they're going to look weak, foolish, stupid, inept,
totally
unprofessional.
Yeah.
Fill in the negative adjective. It will be, people will think less of them if they ask for help. But here's the problem with that. That's focusing on you. And here's the one thing I've been telling people for 2 or 3 years now, and once I tell them this, it usually straightens it all out for them in their head. When you fail or refuse to ask for help, you're robbing the other person of the joy they would have gotten from helping you. You're stealing their joy by not raising your hand and saying, hey, I know you know this stuff. You've probably been working in this area for 20 or 30 years. Would you please help me? And you would be amazed how much better that other person's day is when they get an opportunity to show off and share their information, their skills, their talents, their even if you just ask them to help you by making you feel better. Just sharing an emotional connection for some people can be the highlight of their day.
That is just beautiful. I love the way you've put that, Max. And so when we can turn that around and not make it about ourselves, look what's going to come back to us, and you're going to get the information you perhaps need and what you've done for that other person. I love that.
And that's the thing is we focus way too much on ourselves. If you will just think of the other person and be willing to let them help. Now that's the entry level version. Now the graduate version of this lesson.
The graduate version. I love this.
Yeah. Because trust me, this is harder. What I'm fixing to tell you is actually harder for most people. Yeah. And that is the second part is accepting help when offered, when you didn't ask for it. Because there are a lot of people who, they can bring themselves to ask for help, but if somebody comes up, say somebody that maybe you don't know so well, and they offer to help, then it's like, well, what's wrong with me that this person thinks I need their help?
Yeah.
It becomes, it gets all tangled up in your brain again. And so the thing is when people are offering to help, it's because, one, they believe they have the information or skills that they can help you. And two, it's because you asked. You just didn't know you were asking, because you may have written a blog post. You may have left a blog comment. You may have prayed or meditated or used an affirmation. You may have whined about it to a friend. You've asked. You just didn't know you were asking. And somehow God or the universe, depending on what you believe in, has heard you asking and heard you asking over and over again. So they send somebody into your life who will offer you help. And like I said, you just don't know you asked for it. It feels like they're offering it unsolicited. But
beautiful.
So many times, those are the times when you really needed it. And if you turn them down because of problems with your ego, because you just getting tangled up in your own mind, you're going to make it harder on yourself.
Yeah, that was my personal experience. I totally just get that, Matt.